Let's talk about Buffett. So Buffett's official shareholder letter came out. By the way, SMCI did not release the 10K yet, for everyone asking. It is not out yet. They're cutting it pretty damn close. It's due tomorrow. SMCI is down 3% right now. They were down 5% on Friday. I hope they release it tomorrow. I would imagine they do. If they don't, there's going to be some issues. But yeah, there's no release yet. Maybe they release it during market open, but hopefully they do release it soon. Okay, Buffett. So what are the takeaways from Buffett's shareholder letter? I think it was really interesting what he said and what he didn't say. So first of all, Buffett is now sitting on $334 billion of cash. It's a lot of cash. He owns he owns a lot more treasuries than the United States of America, than the Federal Reserve. So I think he owns like about $89 billion more T-bills than the Federal Reserve does, which is pretty incredible. So $334 billion of cash. That's up from $325 billion as of Q3. He paid $26.8 billion to the IRS in taxes in 2024. That's roughly 5% of what all of corporate America paid. Now, on their large cash position, Buffett said, despite what some commentators currently view as an extraordinarily large cash position at Berkshire, the great majority of your money remains in equities. That preference won't change. While our ownership in marketable equities moved downward last year from $354 billion to $272 billion, the value of our non-quoted controlled equities increased somewhat and remains far greater than the value of our marketable portfolio. I think this sentence is kind of BS. And I love Buffett, but I think he's BSing right here. So basically he's saying, hey, I know you guys think we have a lot of cash, but actually we're still invested, $250 billion in equities, and we own Geico. We own all these operating businesses, Dairy Queen, yada, yada. We have a ton of cash in those businesses. The problem is that still doesn't answer the $334 billion of cash that's invested in T-bills, right? Like basically he's trying to say, look, we own private businesses, public businesses, and although our ownership is less, we still have a ton in those businesses. But that doesn't answer the extraordinary cash position that Berkshire has, which is $334 billion. Like, why do you have that much in cash? Why is that not being reinvested into Geico? Why is that not being reinvested into Apple or Visa or American Express or Kraft Heinz, etc.? There's no answer to that in this shareholder letter. And so if you read between the lines, I think the answer is he's waiting for something to happen to get a better opportunity. That's kind of my interpretation of it. This is what he said about the 2024 performance, even with 50% of his company showing a decline in earnings. In 2024, Berkshire did better than I expected, though 53% of our 189 operating businesses reported a decline in earnings. We were aided by a predictable large gain in investment income as treasury bill yields improved, and we substantially increased our holdings of these highly liquid short-term securities. Basically saying, like, yeah, even though our businesses did worse on an earnings metric, we still did well as a stock. Berkshire Hathaway stock is up a little bit more than the S&P last year because we made a lot of money from T-bills. And so because we made a lot of money from T-bills, that's what's helping the company do well. And then finally, on the concept of a dividend, he said, note one crucial factor allowing this record-shattering payment. Berkshire shareholders during the same 1965 to 2024 period received only one cash dividend. I actually didn't know this. On January 3rd, 1967, we dispersed our sole payment of 10 cents per capital A share. I can't remember why I suggested this action to Berkshire board of directors. Now it seems like a bad dream. Basically saying, hey, you're not getting a dividend. Don't ask us for a dividend. We're not going to give a dividend. We're going to rather invest our money into equities. The problem is Berkshire shareholders are like, wait a second, you're not giving us a dividend and you're just investing into T-bills. You're not actually investing into equities. So what are you saying here? I read the whole letter front to back, and there was never a moment where he said, we're afraid of the U.S. economy. We're afraid of valuations. We're afraid of extended multiples. Berkshire did sell all of their S&P a couple of weeks ago. Granted, it was a small part of their overall equity position, but still, they didn't mention any weakness or fear that they feel for the broader economy. But Berkshire shareholders are wondering why A, they're not addressing that, or B, they're not giving a dividend if they think that their capital is better used in T-bills versus going back to shareholders. Here's another thing about the shareholder letter that I thought was very interesting. Berkshire didn't buy back any of their stock. And on that question, they quite literally said, yeah, we don't think our stock is appropriately priced to buy it back right now. Which to me means we think our stock is expensive, right? It's like when Elon tweeted, I think Tesla price is too high right now. Like, that's basically if you don't buy back your stock, you're obviously thinking you can get a better deal. And if you want a better deal, that means you're assuming some market volatility will take your stock down. If you're assuming that market volatility is going to happen within the next year, then that is kind of a sign to the general public that Berkshire is not the most bullish on the broader American economy. So look, do we need to get some epic collapse because Berkshire is holding on to cash? Of course not. In fact, over the past couple of years, Berkshire has had a ton of cash, and tech stocks, Mag 7, have done very well. It's just we're 2 years removed from a very strong bull market, 2023, 2024. I still think 2025 is a bull market. I don't know if it's going to replicate the same results as we got in 2024. But even Buffett's saying he doesn't have any good deals, which is kind of funny because I think Google is like a really great deal. And I think Buffett could buy a crap ton of Google and do very well, even at these multiples. But it seems like he's thinking the opposite. Granted, he would never invest in Google. But still, I think there's deals out there. Buffett obviously disagrees right now, and that's why he's holding on to this cash. Arnie says, indeed, could be preparing for a massive backdrop if Buffett dies and the stock drops. I mean, yeah, Buffett, the one sad part about the letter as well is that Buffett was kind of acknowledging his mortality and saying that there will be a new CEO of Berkshire very soon. And, it's just one of those things. As you get older, you acknowledge that you're not going to be around forever. And maybe that could be the argument as well. I mean, people have been pointing to the fact that he wants to have enough cash ready for the next person in charge to be able to have runway to manage that cash. And maybe that's why they're not spending that much. But regardless, Berkshire is holding on to a lot of treasuries, and the United States government is paying him a lot of interest on those treasuries, as he has basically $1/3 of $1 trillion stuck in T-bills currently right now. So that's the update we got on Berkshire. And yeah, I mean, look, if anything were to happen to Buffett and Berkshire were to drop, yeah, that could create a buyback scenario as well, where if something happens to him and Berkshire takes a hit, that's when they could buy back their stock. But I think in general, they're also just feeling that at $483, 23 times PE, they don't feel they're undervalued enough. And they're right. I mean, Berkshire is not undervalued. It's definitely not, I don't think it's the most overvalued asset in the world, but I don't think it's undervalued. And so it makes sense that they'd rather hold on to their cash and deploy in different opportunities as well.